Welcome to another edition of Make It Fair. My name is Harmon Dash, along with our founder, Dr. Stuart Phillips. Since our inception, we have been dedicated to getting money out of politics. And right now, we're in the peak of hurricane season this week, so we thought it was important to focus on climate change, what is happening around the globe, and specifically here, close to us in New Orleans, and how money in politics is keeping us from fixing any of the problems that are growing bigger day by day, year by year. With hurricane season, what we are seeing here in New Orleans, there's lots of summer storms. We get hit by big storms, tropical hurricanes. The frequency isn't so much increasing, but the intensity of these storms is, and we are seeing a lot more flooding. The intensity is in terms of the winds, miles per hour, as well as the actual amount of rainfall that come in these shorter amounts of time.
That's exactly the case. If you live where we do, you don't need to be convinced. Look at the flood at Houston. That was the worst that they've ever had. Look at the height of the Mississippi River this year. It was by far higher than it's ever been.
Longer sustained height during hurricane season ever this year.
Look at the number of flooding events just in the city of New Orleans in the last 6 weeks. More 3-inch per hour rains than we've ever had.
Well, so this is all, in terms of what we see throughout the summer months here in this region of the country, down in the Gulf South. But, the winter storms that are happening around the country up north, some of those affect what happens here in New Orleans as well. It's part of why the Mississippi has been rising.
The Mississippi River drains 3/5 of the United States all the way to Canada. So when it snows in Minnesota, the water comes down the river and gets to Canal Street.
So when we are talking about excess heat, trapping more moisture in the air, and then you get the cold temperatures, say in Minnesota, bringing bigger winter storms, bigger than we've seen in recent years, that just keep getting bigger, that will affect how climate change comes down the river and brings it here to our city and the cities around us.
So you can see the rain that happens in Metairie and floods the streets, but the snow that happens in Minnesota winds up at Eads Plaza just as well. Storms are not necessarily getting more numerous, but they're getting stronger and wetter. And most people don't die from the wind, they die from the water. We had 1,000 people die from Katrina. If the river and the storm come together, that'll be 10,000.
Well, now you mentioned that climate change is a global thing. We're talking about it in terms of what's happening right here locally. But if you look across the country, 82% of Americans think that we need to address climate change and do something about this. 60% of those Americans, we think that climate change needs to be addressed right now, but we can't seem to get a bill in front of Congress that can get through.
Yeah, we can't get a bill through the legislature, and that's what we want to discuss. The reason we can't get the bill through the legislature is because of our political system, which rewards people who pay off our Congress. We have the most corrupt government in the world by any study you want to get. We have $4 or $5 billion that go into the president's election, and I'll ask any of you, how much of that $5 billion do you think is given by interested citizens who just want good government? So if you say 10%, that's $4.5 billion of bribes. If we can't get rid of that, we can't get good policies that will stop us from drowning.
Well, so if you're saying that we can't outspend the moneyed interest, what can we do?
Yeah, let's be honest, Exxon has more money than we do. What we need to do is make laws that prohibits Exxon from bribing the politicians. Right now, Exxon can start a dark money PAC and can give money to the politicians, and our politicians will take money from almost anybody, and they're really cheap to bribe.
We want to make it clear that Exxon, like many companies just like them, they are a business. They are looking more about the next quarterly earnings report than what's going to happen 50 years down the road. And we can't expect them to be thinking long term for the good of the planet. They're a business. Their number one priority is the bottom line.
You don't have enough money to outbid Exxon, so what we need to do is make it illegal for corporations to bribe politicians.
Well, and I'm glad you mentioned that we want to end the flow of dark money. It's part of one of the things that we push here at Make It Fair, the American Anti-Corruption Act, which you can see on our website, makeitfair.us. Takes just a few minutes to read in full, very understandable. You can also see it at the top of our Facebook page. It will end the flow of dark money. You'll know who's giving money to who. It removes all motivation for elected officials to act in a corrupt manner and only represent the people with the highest bidders, who can buy the legislative outcomes they want and can return democracy to the people. So if you feel like climate change is a serious threat that will affect your life and the people around you and the entire globe, please join us. Go ahead and check out the American Anti-Corruption Act. You can also sign your name to it and say that you support this important piece of legislation. Yes, Stuart?
And remember, share our video and vote. If you want to protect yourself, share our video, vote, and support us. Join makeitfair.us. Look up the American Anti-Corruption Act, sign up for it, and support people in government who are against public bribery.
All right. Sound fair enough? For Make It Fair and Dr. Stuart Phillips, I'm Harmon Dash. Thank you for watching.